Welcome back to the OSM channel. In today's video, I'm going to continue on with my series of how to manufacture maple syrup. Today is going to be the most important day because what we're going to do, we're going to take this raw sap, we're going to concentrate it down to hopefully syrup, and hopefully we'll get to the bottling process in today's video. Now, when you extract the sap from the maple trees, typically the sugar concentration is only 1 to 2%, as where maple syrup, I think, is around 66% bricks or sugar concentration. And I think that number varies based on the temperature of the sap, which we will get into all of that a little bit later on in this video. But first thing I need to do, I need to get this evaporator fired up. Before I can get the evaporator fired up, I need to put some sap in these pans. So I collect my sap in those 2-gallon aluminum buckets. From there, every day I'll walk throughout the yard with one of these 5-gallon water jugs. I have a stainless steel mesh filter funnel. So I'll dump the sap into these buckets and then I just hold on to it until I'm ready to boil it down, concentrate it down on the evaporator. Now before I dump this sap in the evaporator pans, I like to do a pre-filter. Here's my method for pre-filtering the sap. I have a stainless steel pot. I have a grease fryer filtering funnel holder. And then I purchased a 3-pack of synthetic maple syrup filters. These are reusable, so once these get clogged up, you just wash them out and reuse them. But we have 2 thinner pre-filters, and then we have a finishing filter. We're not going to need the finishing filter until later on in this video, but for now, we're just going to take one of these pre-filters, put it in the holder, and we'll dump our raw sap through this filter, let it filter through into the pot, and then we'll dump it in the trays. So here we have my 2 6-inch stainless steel steam trays, as they call them. This is kind of like a poor man's maple syrup evaporator. Now, it's a blustery day, so a few bits of debris are going to get in these pans. It is what it is, but we are going to filter out those little bits of debris later on in the finishing process, so don't be too concerned about that. But one of the keys here is to ensure that you always have some sap in the bottom of these pans. You don't want to run these dry or you risk ruining your pans. So let's add that filtered sap into the pans now. It's going to take a little while for that thing to heat up. So this is what the trays look like after running about 10 gallons through the unit so far. Again, this is my main boiling tray and this is my warming tray. So what will happen as the warming tray starts to get to a low-grade boil, I'll typically scoop this out and dump it into the main boil tray, and from there then I'll add cool sap into the warming tray. I typically like to keep around 2 inches of sap inside the boiling tray. You don't want to add too much liquid because then it's kind of difficult to bring the sap up to a boil. And you don't want it to get too low because then you risk running it dry. And the worst thing that you could do is run these pans dry and have all that sugar just baked onto the bottom of the pan. Now another thing you probably can notice is that the color of the sap in the main boil tray is starting to change. It's starting to get a little bit golden, which we're nowhere near the 66% sugar concentration that we need for syrup, but it's nice to see that progress is being made. So at this rate, I figure I have about 2 more hours of boiling to finish everything. I have 2 more gallons of fresh sap I have to add to the warming tray, and then we're going to concentrate everything down in the rear tray. When I empty out the front tray, I'll probably just fill this up with water, but before we're completely out of daylight, I need to talk about how we measure the sugar content in the sap. It's very important because if you over-concentrate the sap, you could burn it and you could ruin your batch. So we measure sugar concentration, sugar content, with this device right here. This is called a hydrometer. So there's a stainless steel cup and then the hydrometer. So we will fill this stainless steel cup with the hot syrup as it gets close, and then we will slowly drop this hydrometer down into the stainless steel cup. Now, this hydrometer measures something called Brinks, which I believe Brinks is the sugar concentration, the sugar percentage in the sap. 45, 50, 55. And notice that there are 2 red lines on this hydrometer. The upper red line is the hot measure target line, and then the lower red line is the cold measure target line. So The Brinks level of the sap will vary based on its temperature. For tonight, we're going to be doing a hot test. So that means what I'm looking for, I'm looking to fill up this cup. As I drop this hydrometer down in here, I want this hydrometer to settle at this upper line, the hot test line, which is 59 Brinks. So that is what we are shooting for. So it's 9 p.m., still going. I've consolidated all the sap to this rear main boil pan. The forward pan just has water in it now, so we avoid running it dry. But I'm just watching this pan very closely, keep checking it with the hydrometer. Another thing that I purchased a while back that I just brought out is this thermometer. So sap is supposed to be finished when it is 7 degrees above the boiling temperature of water. Now the boiling temperature of water on average is 212 degrees, but that will vary based on your height above sea level. So just watching this thermometer, and we're getting close, which boiling point of water here is 212. So once we get to 219, we should be pretty good. I set the alarm at 218 just to give me a little heads up. I'm not 100% sure how accurate this thermometer is, but it's a good gauge, a good way to kind of keep an eye on things. The boil is starting to change slightly, so we're definitely getting close. Well folks, we are very close. If you take a look in the pan, you can see that the boil characteristics are starting to change. There's a lot more bubbles, which indicates that we are getting close. Thermometer wise, we are at 216. We're looking for 219. I just took a measurement with the hydrometer, and we were at about 52 Brinks. We're looking for 59, so we are extremely close, and we have to pay attention here. Just took another reading with the hydrometer. You can see the 55 mark. We are 2 notches below that, indicating that we are at 57 Brinks. Temperature is still 217, so 2 more Brinks and we are there. And this is going to happen really fast, so about every minute now I'm going to check the Brinks. Right, that's our 219 alarm. 58. Ooh, we got to slow this down. You can see it started to foam real good. I think we're actually going to call it right there. I don't think 1 Brinks is going to make or break us. That is just foaming very different, and it happened very quick. That's perfect. If anything, we might be a smidge over, but I'll take it. We'll call it good there. So let's bring this inside and filter it quick. So I have my funnel set up. I have my 3 filters. We have 2 pre-filters and then a finishing filter. It's a little redneck, but it should work just fine. Might splatter a little bit. I think that's going to be stable enough. So I'm going to climb up this ladder. Just dump the pan in here. Let me grab the pan. Now one of my concerns here is that the filters are going to clog up, which we will have to cross that bridge when we get there. I guess if the first pre-filter clogs up, I could always remove it. And then we'd have 1 pre-filter and then the main filter. But it's not like we have a ton of syrup here. We have 1.5 gallons maybe. Oh, that's a problem. We're up Schitt's Creek. Shoot, I'm gonna have to filter out that syrup again. Well, I was afraid of that. I was afraid of that happening. Oh, what a disaster. Oh, this has been an absolute disaster. Yep, it's been that kind of night. Oh well, what did I lose? between the two of them. 14 ounces maybe. Let me get a bucket and a sponge and start cleaning this up. Well, this is just a sticky mess, and I think the title of this video is going to be How Not to Make Maple Syrup, but I am attempting to salvage what I can. So when I was filtering everything into this pot initially, some of the carbon on that pan actually got into this pot. So I had to refilter everything, and I removed one pre-filter, so we have one pre-filter and the finished filter, and everything's going into a new stainless steel bowl, which I'm going to have to transfer to a pot tomorrow when I bring that back up to 180 or 185. So I still have some syrup in the pan I'm trying to salvage. This just, this really stinks. I have, who knows how many hours, 30 hours into boiling, probably 40 hours if I calculate time it's taken me to collect all the sap, and yeah, probably just cut down on about half my yield. So, oh well, live and learn. But I do need to try and salvage what's left in that pan. I did remove one pre-filter, and I was trying to have it in this pan dripping down on this stick, but this has just proven to be quite the sticky mess. So I'm probably just gonna, I don't even know, we're gonna let this drip a minute. I might as well, and then I'll just take whatever's in this pan and try and run it through that filter. Which there's two filters there. There's a lot of junk in here though, so. Alright, now it's time to bottle the syrup, and many things need to happen here. So the first thing we need to do is to sterilize our glass. I'm using two different size glass containers, 12 ounce as well as 4 ounce. 4 ounce containers are going to be gifts. So in order to sterilize the glass, I'm going to stick it in the oven at 190 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 minutes. The lids for the 4 ounce jars, I'm going to stick these into a pot of boiling water to sterilize the lids. As for the plastic caps, I've read that the best thing to do is once you fill the glass up with syrup, put the glass on its side, and the hot syrup should in fact sterilize the underside of the cap. So that's what I plan to do for the caps. Now for the syrup, we need to heat that up, but we need to be very careful here. We want to heat it up to between 180 and 190 degrees Fahrenheit. That is the ideal range. So I'm going to try and heat it up to 186 degrees Fahrenheit. I have this thermometer with a set point, which is really nice because once you hit that set point it sounds an alarm, but we need to be very careful we don't go over 190. Ideal bottling range temperature is between 180 to 190 degrees Fahrenheit. If we go over 190, what could potentially happen is niter, sugar sand, could start forming in the syrup, thus we would have to refilter out the entire batch of syrup, which we do not want to do that. So I think I've laid it out pretty well. Have my workstation ready to go, ladle, as well as a funnel. Let's get the ball rolling here. Now when heating up this syrup, we want to do it slowly, especially if you're using a stove that has a propane or natural gas burner. You run the risk of scorching the bottom portion of the syrup. Thus, you know, if you get the bottom too hot, you could go over that 190 mark and potentially form niter, sugar sand in the bottom portion of the syrup. So I'm just going to watch this temperature and constantly stir the pot. So we're at 180. We're going to go up a few degrees more.
83. 85.
Alright, we're going to call that good there. The sap's at 185 degrees. We're going to take it off the heat. We're going to start filling these up.
Okay, very carefully don't make a mess.
So you got to go quicker though. We got to move. Yep, just a little bit more in there. Good.
Why do you have to go fast?
Hold that. Because we need to keep the temperature up.
Yeah, it's starting to drop.
I gotta reheat it up as well. Put that lid on.
83 now. Why does it have to stay hot? Like 186-ish?
To sanitize everything, but but also to ensure we get a good seal.
Oh, 78.
Alright.
78.
Alright, let's pause for a second. We're going to transfer it back to the burner. Back up to 180. Alright, so we had to put the pot back on the burner to try and keep our temperatures above 180, but below 190. It's working out pretty well. And here we have the finished product. Definitely not as much as what I was hoping for. You know, half of my syrup is on the garage floor, but I am very pleased with how everything else came out. The syrup is a dark color, which I believe gives it a more robust mapley flavor as opposed to the lighter colored syrups, which that's not really something you can control. As for the clarity, looks real nice. Those filters worked out extraordinarily well. And as for this tamper-resistant cap, the key is to push down and twist in order to get that to really seal onto the bottle. And I had these bottles on their side for, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes after I filled them up, so those caps should be nice and sanitized. These bubbles, I'm sure, will go away over time. As for these little jars, there's a little detent in here, and you can tell when these are properly sealed when that detent gets sucked in. And checking all these jars, that detent did pull in, so all of these jars are bottled properly. And we're about to give a few of these away to the neighbors now. With that, I'm going to conclude today's video. I'd like to thank you for watching, and as always, I will catch you on the next one. I'm sure this will go a lot better next year. We'll expand operations next year.